So this picture is for our team. It's taken from our office in Stockholm on Birgersgatan. We're quite a diverse and mixed team, and we are an impact tech partner. And what that means is that we essentially primarily work with projects that have an impact, and teams and companies that want to source diversity in their teams to be able to build their products. We're headquartered in Sweden, and for the greater part, we've been implementing all client projects in our development centers in East Africa. We have, and I'll be telling you more about why we chose this model and why outsource towards Africa. The type of projects that we have mostly taken have been projects by tech companies that are looking to have extended teams, projects by SMEs that have IT requirements but want to have their own IT department. And some of the reasons we have chosen to work with this region, as I'll be telling you, has been that it is one of the fastest growing region in the world today. And there's a lot of interest from Swedish companies to enter East Africa. There's a very young population. There's been very high levels of technology adoption. We've all heard about how much telephone penetration has been over the last 10 years, how much internet penetration is growing, how much mobile money is being used, and so on. And all this combined sort of create opportunities for Swedish and European and international companies to enter the technology space. As an IT company, we work mostly towards servicing our customers that have projects and requirements in Sweden. Sweden is a very challenged market in terms of IT talent. It has traditionally 40% of Swedish businesses have traditionally outsourced IT and IT-related operations, particularly to traditional markets like India and Russia, and most recently to Eastern Europe, Ukraine, and so on. And why the market we work in is really very interesting for our customers and partners is because we live by the principle that brilliance is evenly distributed, but opportunities are not. And whereas these more traditional markets are sort of saturated, when you go to India, you will find that, well, it's a big continent, but you'll find that every technology company in the US and in Sweden and anywhere in the world has already set up an office and a development center there. And they can only be the top 2% or the top 5% of brilliance is equally the same anywhere. So it's a very high competition for top talent. And the salaries are low, but they're high for this type of talent. It is very high to retain skills. And particularly when you look at the culture aspect, where skills are not enough for Swedish customers, so they want to sort of have a culture fit, and it takes time to build that culture fit. And then when you have a high attrition rate, it starts to become a good business case to consider markets that are still very virgin, that have young people, that have low costs, but also potentially high impact. And we create impact by sort of being that alternative and that entry into the African tech scene. I've touched briefly on how does the labor markets look. We strongly believe that Africa is the next labor market frontier, if it's not already is. And this is particularly because of the demographic structure of the world today. So this map sort of shows where are the young people today, and you can see the median ages of different countries and different regions. And whereas we have a very aging population here in Sweden and in Nordics and other parts of Europe and Northern America, you can see that many developing countries have relatively young population, but the most young population is in Africa, particularly in East Africa, where the median age is 19 years. We have a lot of new technologies coming up, and these technologies are going to drive digital transformation. They've already started doing it in the face of COVID. And it's very hard to sort of have populations with median ages of 50 years to sort of catch up on these new technologies. So I think our biggest selling point is to sort of find partners that see this trend that we're seeing and build strategic value together. In terms of setup, this is how we work to, to support Scandinavian partners to, to utilize this vast and untapped young talent. We have a setup in Sweden with a Swedish team that does sales and business development, mostly in Swedish, but also that does project management and UX. And the reason we do that is we want to bridge the sort of culture gap in terms of, one, of course, language, but also in terms of way of working, and most importantly, in terms of the definition of what is done, the definition of how a good product should look like. And later on in the presentation, I'll share some of our case studies that highlight the kind of quality we've been able to achieve. And our team setups is we have a project manager and an account manager that sort of handle the technical and the business liaison with the Swedish partner. Then we build a team, at times including a user experience person based in Sweden and engineers based in one of our development centers. We've received feedback that these teams that are diverse, that have a high percentage of female young developers, something we encourage so much, and we want to build that inclusiveness in this young tech market. We have received feedback that this enriches the innovation process. It brings new perspectives on the table, and quite often we have clients that are developing impact products that are then targeted to developing countries and emerging markets. So it then shifts the game and puts people that have faced this problem personally to be involved in the innovation and development process of these products. And doing that, we create impact on different levels, and I'll be sharing what a business case in terms of impact and in terms of business value towards our customers. And here we sort of touch on what type of, what's the rationale? Why should a Swedish business do this? And one, and overreachingly, of course, the tremendous social impact it can create. And we've created a model where it can do that without compromising their competitiveness. So they can access this large untapped talent pool, and through our setup, they can access it as well as they could access nearshore centers like Ukraine or Poland. What I haven't touched on is that the time differences where we have our centers is the same. For example, when you look at our center in Nigeria and the teams we've had in Ghana, but in East Africa, it varies from +1 hour during summertime and +2 hours during wintertime. The workforce is stable, of course, low attrition rate because there's a high unemployment rate, not as high in the type of skills and talents that we have. They always have employment, but still the rate is higher, which sort of makes people not move from position to position. So you can build and retain this culture. And they're very motivated to have a job, very motivated to learn. It's a good cost-saving alternative. We're happy to share from our research how does this comparison look against other alternatives, but we're comfortable to say that it's it saves up to 40%. Looking at per hour rate downwards of $20 per hour towards the client, as opposed to, for example, $40-50 per hour towards the next alternative. it's a very competitive case, both in terms of stability and also in terms of cost. And it offers a lot of tremendous learning opportunities and skills transfer for these young people. I'm from a school of thought where I'm completely against aid, completely against charity, and I subscribe wholly to Charlotte and Meg Trade's philosophy of encouraging more trade and more business. And we think that even if these people are young people are talented, even if they've attained the best education they could get, quite often we have engineers that have studied here in Sweden or in the UK and have returned back home, and we want to create enriching opportunities for them to stay back home and with their families. It gives them international exposure to work on really international products and projects. And of course, all in all, summed up, this created strong social impact in terms of for themselves, for their families, and for their communities. In terms of references of what our latest projects have been, we have recently completed an app that is the first of its kind. I urge you all to take a look. It's a run-connected app where different runners can run together from different parts of the world through a virtual experience of voice and video, and they can set milestones and challenge each other. It's really brilliant, and we had a team of 3 people that was part of the core team working towards this project. Tremendous, it's taking the world, sweeping over the world, and it's very, very, very relevant. The second use case which we've worked with since we started is Adressia. Previously used to be a map project. They're doing tremendous work. They're creating addresses for 4 billion people in the world. And we worked with them all the way from when they were prototyping and part of Cotiho Innovation to now that they have grown to become an impact and strong business. And we're proud of the founders. We've been close to them throughout the whole journey, and we are grateful that they took this step to sort of work through this model and with the young people that we provide. Very recently completed, this is in IT consultancy. I'll sort of summarize by talking about what sort of products do we offer and how do we partner. But we recently finished the market study for the National Board of Trade that sort of tries to map what IT services are demanded in Sweden, and it's part of a program to open up the IT market more for developing countries and make it more accessible. You can find a study both on our website and also on their website. We've been working with Inclusive Business Sweden we developed and supported all of their digital infrastructure, including the recent inclusive accelerators. In terms of what we offer, we have 3 main service lines, and one is application development. And this alone can be decomposed into a lot of activities. But at the core is developing any digital product where we have responsibility for deliverable towards the client. It can be mobile apps, it can be web apps, or it can be simpler things like website for smaller businesses. We do it at cost and at a Swedish quality than any other that we can think of that stands for both the quality and also the professionalism. We offer dedicated teams where we provide resources, IT engineers and so on towards customers, but also support with handling IT recruitment. During COVID, we've seen an uptick in demand for IT talent. It has always been there, but now it has tremendously increased. For the first time, we've started to work towards providing IT resources to bigger companies in Sweden. And this demand has come both, mostly actually for also IT resources based here, and we have started to cater for that. Regardless, we're still representing inclusiveness. We're still an entry for many international talent to access, top opportunities in top IT companies in Sweden. Maybe just touching on that, we've also been part of government programs through the Swedish Engineering Academy and Alba Medling to sort of support high caliber and academic people with experience that have come to Sweden to sort of enter into the job market. And through that, some later on become relevant as candidates for these opportunities. Then lastly, where we've done studies and is our IT consulting arm, where we offer advice and support. And largely this is also where we have support services. And support services is for smaller organizations that have requirements to maintain their website, requirements to maintain their servers. It can be as small as a few hours a month. And if you're based in a market like Sweden, it becomes very hard because this is a service that's very hard to hire, then you have to do it yourself. So we do it at the cost that saves the owner of a small business to have to spend time trying to be an IT person and still give them a professional IT support service. I'll stop here. Happy to take questions and to